Hi, folks, and welcome to another Saturday Morning Samoflange. It's just me again. Of course, Benjamin can't do it. Mikey was supposed to come. Couldn't get a hold of Mikey this week. I'm busy now. I'm the busy one now. And Benjamin can't come either because I'm the busy one now. The missus has me doing right after my dinner theater, I am now directing a children's play, a Christmas play, and it's called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Don't know what I'm doing. Don't know. Dealing with kids, a little bit different with kids' parents. I'm glad I'm not doing that. My wife's handling that, but yeah, it's a different experience altogether. And then, of course, it keeps me busy every night, and then most of the time on Saturday. So I've just signed my life away over the holidays. I will never do this again. But anyway, because of that, it's probably going to be solo for the time being until I can get a hold of Mikey and we can put something together for this. But this is a big requested one that Mikey and I did not want to do. Mike, because the year 2000, the aughts, so to speak, that was the time when I had graduated college. The end of the 90s was the end of my schooling. December of 1999, I graduated college. And done were the childish ways behind me. They weren't. But anyway, the aughts was basically me getting a real job, me working, the old 8 to 5 grind. And, the shenanigans, the times I had off and stuff like that. Even though I had good times in the aughts, obviously. But those were the times that, I wasn't as hooked into I guess that's a lie too. I was watching movies and TV shows and stuff, but there's a lot of things like that. I had already grown up, I guess I should say, at that time. And so had Mikey. And when I told him about this, he went, "Why are we doing that?" And I said, because he liked the idea of the things we hated about the 80s and 90s. And, but he didn't get to come for those. But for the aughts, we was like, well, I hate just about everything the kids liked back then. I said, yeah, me too. But now we can be a bunch of old men complaining about things that kids were. And I'll be honest, a lot of this is just what the younger generation liked. That me, now, past that, child of the 80s and 90s. So someone asked me, if you could pick a decade, are you going to be a child of it was in the 2000s. I remember my best friend had said, hey, do you want to be known as a child of the 80s or the 90s? I went, oh, the 80s. By far, is what I said, by far. Because the 90s were, even though the 90s had a lot of my childhood, my teenage years were the 90s, which, of course, were very special, and the music from the era is very special. My childhood came from the 80s. But it's kind of interesting because we do kind of swallow 2 decades in that time. And I was, for 3 years, a child of the 70s, but don't remember the 70s that much. So for me, doing this podcast about the 2000s, which everyone wanted me to do, was a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit harsher, I guess I should say. If someone goes, "Oh man, how could you not like? How could you hate on that?" Remember, at this point, I'm postgraduate, so this is what the kids were doing. This is what my little brother and his friends were into, and I'm going to go in order. It was easy for me to make this list. There are no honorable mentions. I just wrote down 5 things I didn't like. And when I hit number 5, I stopped. Because the thing is, I don't want to pick on the younger generation. There's probably a ton of other things I'm forgetting about. I didn't look it up because when I get 5 on my own, usually looking things up, I don't change my mind about it. That's just kind of how it goes. And so there will be hater. If you're a child of the 2000s, the aughts, so to speak, definitely make fun of this old man. Defend your love for these. If you're my age, then you'll probably agree, or maybe you'll add some that I didn't know about. Either way, here we go. Number 5 was super easy. In fact, I think I'm switching it. I am switching it. Oh, wait. Do I want to switch it? Yes, I do. I'm switching number 5 on the fly right here. New number 5. The obsession with Tommy Hilfiger and Abercrombie and Fitch. I, on purpose, never wanted to buy Hilfiger or Abercrombie and Fitch. They were way too. All you were paying for was a logo. That's all you were paying for. I felt that, people wear Tommy Hilfiger. Like someone let me wear one of their shirts. I was like, oh, wow, I'm wearing a Tommy Hilfiger. It felt just like a regular polo shirt. And I realized that I was like, I don't feel any cooler. In fact, I feel kind of embarrassed because I really don't like, everyone makes it a big deal if you're wearing Tommy Hilfiger. You don't say it, but you're wearing it. Abercrombie and Fitch, you definitely want the name on there. So people will know that you're wearing a $60, at the time, $60 was a lot of money, but $60 sweatshirt. No way. No sweatshirt is worth that much. I went in there with friends while they shopped and in my opinion, wasted their money on clothes. And I never, even on the sales rack, which things were $40. And they try to find something on the sales rack because they couldn't afford two shirts. But I was like, no way. I never was into that. But there was this, and there's an obsession with every, some clothes maker or some designer. There's always an exception that, obsession that, oh, I have to be wearing this. It's my status symbol. I don't know what that is today because I don't care anymore. And I don't know if there's something for guys like that anymore. But either way, I mean, locally, there's maybe a few things I can think about. But for me, it's like, I don't care where it came from. It's not that special to me anymore. But the obsession, the outright obsession with Abercrombie and Fitch and Tommy Hilfiger, I will never understand, which is why it's my, and by the way, if you had one, I just thought you were either rich or you were just a poser trying to be rich. Because people would spend their entire paychecks. I saw someone spend most of his paycheck because he wanted to get something to eat too, but buying these clothes so he would look like a rich kid. Even though he had the same part-time job, was making the same amount of money probably that I was, except I was full-time, so never mind. But and this is some full-time people too. But they were just I thought they were just wasting their money on this stuff. You gotta get some Tommy Hilfiger jeans or something. Why? Why? Because it has the emblem. If I could have sewn things on, I would have taken that emblem, sewn it onto my pants and shirt, and absolutely no one would have known the difference. Could have picked up one of those little cheap-looking polos at Walmart, stitched the logo over whatever logo they may or may not have had. No one would have known. Everyone would have been like, "Oh, that's a sweet shirt." Because yeah, it's Tommy Hilfiger. It is. It's Abercrombie Fitch. You're cool. Okay, yeah. Blow it out your ear. It's old cheese. Number 4 is going to piss a few people off. And this did not come out during the year 2000s. However, it gained popularity in the year 2000s. And I thought they were the dumbest things. It was one of the dumbest things in the world. Oh, no. Am I switching up again? Am I moving this farther up? Now that I'm looking at this again, I'm making the switch. This dumb thing I had at number 5 has moved up to number 3. I don't think it'll go any higher. So let me give you the new number 4 then. Rubber wristbands. Wristbands. Make a rubber wristband. They're super cheap. You can produce a billion of them. A billion of them at the same time. And they're useless. Hey, let's make a wrist. I remember they used to make wristbands of the shows we'd be in or wristbands of this or that. And even to the late 2000s, wristbands were the thing. The rubber wristband was a thing. And I thought, hey, you want a wristband? Why? Why would I want your wristband? Why would I want just rubber around my wrist? But everyone had wristbands. It was cheap to give away. You saw them all the time at tables. People just, the whatever charity was going on, you had to get their wristband. Everyone wearing a wristband. Plus, it was rubber, so it pulled on your hair. Pulling it up, pulling it off, stuff like that. No, it was totally dumb. I didn't like it. I remember I kept maybe the first 2 I had, and then I started throwing them away. Even ones from, like every time we did a theater show, hey, we got t-shirts and rubber wristbands, which no one gets anymore. But the rubber wristband craze was everywhere. Everyone had a rubber, and if they'd snatch up your rubber wristband if you had one. Yeah, I want to wear that. Yeah, I want to wear rubber for no reason. It doesn't tell time. I didn't get that. I thought it was a stupid fad. I think you're stupid for wearing. No, I'm kidding. Maybe you still have one. I don't know. I guarantee you, somewhere in your closets, somewhere in your boxes, in your attic, since it's been, I guess now 10, 15 years since then, somewhere along that way, you have a rubber wrist. Heck, I think I threw all mine away, but I still would not be surprised if I dug through the boxes in my attic right now and had another rubber wristband. I might would keep it depending on what it was, but I remember just going through this is years ago. This is after I'd gotten married and was moving stuff into my first house. I started throwing away my rubber wristbands. I just thought they were garbage. We were still getting tons of them back then. In the late, I got married in 2008, so 2008, 2009, rubber wristbands were still the thing. I don't know. I mean, they haven't completely faded, of course. People still do, but back in the day, everything had to have a rubber wristband, and now that's not the case. And now you don't see them at tables all the time. In fact, I went to a little freebie table event for my company recently. No one had rubber wristbands. I didn't see a single one. Felt good. So that rubber wristband craze is kind of going away because people say, hey, these things are totally useless. They'd wear it once, throw it away, or keep it in a box. How's that going to help you? You can still buy them, I'm sure, but yeah, no good. So stupid fad. And you know what? Now that I've said that at number 4, I think that makes sense that this one would be number 3. Now, this one is going to tick people off of the 2000s, and maybe people even my age, even though I don't know how many people of my age love this cartoon. Dragon Ball Z. Really stinking popular. Maybe 90s it came around, but 2000s, I remember my brothers in the 2000s, my younger brothers, were watching these all the time. Like again, I know they'd come out, they'd been made a long time ago, and maybe we're getting passed around in the late 90s. But I just remember I was not in school anymore. Had my own place. And would come over to eat every once in a while at Mom's. My brothers would sit there and just binge watch Dragon Ball Z on like Cartoon Network or whatever it was. And I'd look at it, and it was the dumbest, laziest cartoon I had ever seen. And there's people like up in arms right now who love Dragon Ball Z, but it was not for me. Like, it's just, there's nothing that happens for long stretches of the time. The animation is cheap. Oh, but they have a Super Saiyan fight and everything, but even the fights are cheap. I think someone did a hard cut of like each one. They chopped them down to like 5 minutes, and you still don't miss any of the story. They just give you the story really rushed. But it was like episodic. And they were, my 2 younger brothers who at the time, let me see, if I had graduated, no, Jordan was still been in high school. So yeah, they were both in high school. So this was their teenage years. They were enjoying. Caleb may have been a little bit younger, but preteen years maybe. But either way, though, they were just eating it up every episode. And they had Dragon Ball Z T-shirts and whatnot, and toys. I remember Mom bought them toys, and I thought it was the dumbest. And every time I watched, it was just so hard to watch. And they're like, oh, so, and they tell me this soap opera story, like it was a soap opera. Everything was episodic. I was like, so why would you catch in the middle of this, and why would you be interested? Did y'all watch it from the very beginning? And then I thought, even watching it from the very beginning, I mean, what can hook someone in and say, ooh, this is episode 243, but you know what? I'm interested. I want to invest my entire life into watching Dragon Ball Z. Blah. I don't want to do that. I think that's stupid. But either way, it is what it is, I guess. Not for me. Dragon Ball Z, one of the dumbest. Still today. I don't respect. Oh, Matt, you need to go back and. I'm not. In fact, I'm sure, what's it called? Anime or whatnot has gotten better. I know there's people who still, rave about Dragon Ball Z and its storyline. But okay, we'll put it in a book or put it in a comic. It was like watching a moving comic book because the characters hardly moved. Oh, Matt, there's a few, fight scenes maybe. But, all the talking, close-up talking, and and the background would change. But they weren't moving. It was cheap, lazy animation. Wasn't that lazy animation from the 70s? It's like they just gave up on backgrounds. You watch the old Tom versus Jerry, and it looks beautiful, and then you see crap that came out 10 years later, and you're like, what is this? And a lot of that was in the 70s. Just cheap, dirt cheap animation that was no good. And hard to watch some of those cartoons, too. I'm talking even Hanna-Barbera back in the day. Went the cheap route a few times. But for the animation in Dragon Ball Z to be like just static and nothing ever happening, the dumbest thing. Now, of course, my brothers would definitely argue about this. In fact, I guarantee you the best thing about my younger brothers would say is probably Dragon Ball Z would probably be up there for them. But I just know I looked at it, and still today, my little nephews, well, this is probably about, 5 years ago. My nephews were watching reruns of it back in the day. I was like, oh my gosh, they're watching this again. And I mean, it was kind of weird. I know the guy had a glass dome with his brain showing, I think, or I don't know, everything. And Super Saiyan was you powered up and your hair changed color, and your hair went static, like you stuck your finger in a light socket so it's standing straight up. Ooh, he's really dangerous. Now, screw that. Screw that. Hate everything about it. Dragon Ball Z sucks, and you do too if you liked it. And getting salty here in this episode. That's what happens when you don't bring Mikey or Benjamin along. Okay, number two. I mean, and these are getting really good. Like number one and number two, I had a very brief moment where I thought, which one do I hate most? But then it was kind of easy because number one was the first one I wrote down by far. But one fad I absolutely thought was dumb. And I'll tell you what, emo. The emo kid. You know, the kid with the long hair that got the straightener out, that painted their fingernails, that wear black a lot, wear a lot of chains or, black necklaces of crows or, I don't know if they're crosses or rings or birds or peacock, whatever. But the hair, and the big baggy slouchy black has to be black shoes. Oh, and they love the black boots with all the buttons on it. The weirder and all in black. They had to dress in black, and their hair had to be black. And sometimes they dye their hair black. You'd see them. Sometimes they have a eyeliner too. So dumb, so dumb. I have a buddy of mine. He was pretty smart. Actually, I'm going to rat him out. Sorry, I love you, CJ. Former co-host of the Saturday Morning Samoflange. He actually danced on the side of emo. Like, he knew it was a fad. He knew I better not go all in on this. But he had moments, like eyeliner on a show. He'd put it on for the show and then leave it on when we went out to eat. Because he wanted that eyeliner, but he didn't want to be called out for being emo. Because he kind of knew this is a fad and I'm going to regret this later on. And maybe he'd wear a black shirt with some, black jeans, or maybe he'd wear black jeans with a gray shirt. So it was like dipping his pinky toe, trying to be the emo. He had the hair, so he had to be careful not to be full emo because he knew lovingly Mikey and I were going to make fun of him. If you don't know, that's why the original co-hosts of the podcast, Mikey and CJ, we were so good together because we ragged on each other all the time. I mean, they both mocked me, which I laughed about. Then they'd mock how I'd laugh, which was great. All the time, we'd mock CJ on the podcast. I remember at times we'd mock Mikey. Mikey did get upset once with us with the mocking. This is back when we were playing Zombies, the board game, every night at my not every night, every weekend at my house. That was some of the best things about the aughts, or maybe the early 2010s. When we all hung out together. And we had this ridiculous rule that whoever got to the helipad, you have to get to the helipad to win or kill 25 zombies. And we just said, hey, you have to get to the helipad. And the last one there, and we had a taco that everyone was full. No one wanted to eat the taco. I said, last one there, get slapped in the face with this taco. And Mikey lost, but refused. He welched on the bet. You don't welch on a bet. And plus, why are you upset to get hit in the face with a taco? It's not like we're going to hit you hard. We're not going to hurt you, but we're going to smash it in your cheek, okay? We're not going to smash it in your hair. We're going to smash it in his cheek, and he'd just wipe it off and just complain. That was it. It's going to be something stupid, right? But he welched on it. I was like, you can't welch. He welched. He wasn't doing it. So CJ and I got him back during the next dinner theater, and we were talking to him. We put it on camera, too. Dang. I think that may be one of my early YouTube videos, too. Because CJ said something, and I think I smacked him or someone smacked him, or maybe I did. I can't remember. Someone smacked him in the face with the taco. And he got mad after that video. Oh, he got mad. But like I said, we used to rag each other all the time. So CJ knew if he was going to go emo, he couldn't do it full-fledged. So like I said, dark shirt, but regular shorts or jeans. Black pants. He has to do like a gray shirt. It's half emo, or like a red shirt that kind of looked cool. Kind of had some whatever Pokemon anime on it. Whatnot. His hair was already there, like I said, and then he'd leave the eyeliner in for shows, but he put eyeliner in his eyes for every show. Because back then, and back when I was doing plays with him back in the day, he would. I don't think you needed eyeliner every time. They put eyeliner on me once for one show because I needed it because I was playing Cogsworth the clock. But for the other ones, they did not. I did not need eyeliner. Neither did he. But he always put it in, and then he'd leave it on when we go out. So it was like, oh, did I leave it in? Oh, yeah. You want to look the emo part, but he avoided it because there's no super. If you looked at old photos of him, you would say, oh, that's him after a show. That's why he has his eyeliner in. Or there he is with black pants but a colored shirt, or black shirt because he danced around it back in the day. And he was a smart man too because he knew me and Mikey were not going to let him go on that. All right, so emos, you suck. 2000s, the number one was a no-brainer here, and I bet people my age, I bet you also had this as your number one the moment you heard the title of this podcast. So if you did, let me know in the comments below. But that is boy bands. The endless stream of boy bands. Yes, they started coming around in the 90s with New Kids on the Block, and there was always one. But it was just an excessive amount. NSYNC was everywhere. 98 Degrees, Boys to Men, and Backstreet Boys, and I mean, it was just one, and then a bunch of flops, and boy bands are still around today. I realize that, but just boy bands just exploded everywhere, and all of them. Well, not all of them. I think the only one. I'll be honest, the only one because I listened to one of their songs today was 98 Degrees. I just liked one or two of their songs, and 98 Degrees was just as bad as every other band. But I can't. Oh man, I can't remember what the song it was I listened to. All Because of You. Yeah. Sunshine After the Rain. I think that was it that I listened to today. We listen to music as we cook. When I cook with my kids, we listen to music, and I try to get different things in there. I thought, well, you know what? Let's do some. I had my mind on this podcast because I knew I was doing the podcast. Let's do some alt pop, and it played some Britney Spears, and I tried to listen to the NSYNC but couldn't. I skipped it. I skipped a Backstreet Boys one. I just couldn't, and then I stopped it and changed it to something else. We did 198 Degrees, one Britney Spears. Oh, and for some reason it played Miley Cyrus too, but I guess early Miley Cyrus was in the alts. And then a Party in the USA, and then I was like, oh, okay, we're done. Because I wouldn't say the music in the 2000s is bad, but the boy bands, definitely bad. Definitely bad, all of them. Didn't like any of them. Really, 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 thought it was excessive. I like a lot of people who love music. You hate the boy bands. Now, let me switch real quick to things I liked. I don't think I had anything on here, but let me see. No, I didn't have anything I liked. The fashion was fine. It didn't really bother me. I'm looking at fashion right now. Let me type in fads here. Is there any fads I liked? Not really. I mean, you started having those phones, those thick phones. Man, those phones were good. Oh, let me talk about the phones. The phones were rock solid, man. You'd go days without a charge. I kind of missed that. That was back before they were smart, right? I kept my little Razor phone. Motorola was a big thing. I loved Motorola phones. Hard as a brick. In fact, I remember I went into a place called Singular. It's AT&T now. But they were Singular cell phone company. And I said, I just want one that's dependable. He said, Motorola, so dependable. I had to charge it every 3 days. I missed that. I have to charge my phone twice a day. Once middle of the day and again at night. Sometimes I hardly use it and I still need to charge it twice. So it's just insane how, a little bit of video, if I have the Bluetooth on, or whatnot, it just drain. Batteries just drain. In fact, I made a mistake. I was getting the Motorola or Moto Power, which was a pretty powerful battery, but it only lasts. You have to charge your phone every other day. It says up to 3 days. No, it can't make it to a third day now, but every other day. Yeah, and so I love that. I loved Battery life is like the most important thing, not pixels or speeds or whatnot. So, but I switched. I was a dumb man. I got the they gave me the top of the line Galaxy for free, and I swallowed it, and I regret it. I regret it so much. I'm going back to that Moto, the next new phone I get, Moto Power, whatever it was called. Best phone I ever had. Cheap phone, but super awesome. Just as good for me, just as good as anything else. But back in the day, I got that Motorola. I remember this Motorola phone. It had rubber on the outside, so it had a good grip, and it wasn't metal on the outside. It was plastic, but it was just push button back then. No video screen. I don't know if it took pictures back then, but I remember he picked it up. This is in the 2000. He said, "Why should I get this phone?" And I said, because I said I want something that's durable. Because back then, phones could break. You got to watch and make sure your phone doesn't break. And back then, no phone was waterproof. But I said, I just want one that's just hard to break. And so he goes, this one goes 3 days. No, he goes, yeah, it goes 3 days without a charge. And he was right. Because of course all you're doing is texting at the time and calling. But of course there weren't any unlimited plans either. So maybe that's why batteries lasted longer. But that battery lasted 3 days. Also, he took it up, threw it across the room against the wall as hard as he could. He went, go get it. I was like, dang, he just broke that thing. The thing was still good. He said, and if you won't, he said, I'll run over it with a car too. He said, if it's closed, it may survive. And I was like, get out of here. I mean, he's being, kind of stupid about it. But he did say, drop it on the phone, smack it around. He said, you drop this thing. He kept dropping it as he's talking to me, not throwing it. He wasn't throwing anymore, but he was just dropping it on the ground. And he'd pick it back up and drop, and then open it up and show that it was his phone. And he'd make calls. He said, I drop this thing all the time. Doesn't break, doesn't crack. And so I bought, man, that phone lasted forever. That's probably the best thing about the 2000s. I don't think I want to look at anything else now. That was probably the best thing right there, was that stupid phone. And then I had it, back then the phones in the aughts would get like smaller and smaller. I remember in like 2006, 2007, the cooler you were, the smaller the phone you had, the cooler you were. And in fact, Zoolander made a big joke about that when he had this like little microphone, because phones were just getting smaller. They weren't being practical. They were just doing the same thing any cell phone did, but they got smaller. Well, I had the smallest phone. And here's the thing. Did I do it? I mean, it was super tiny. And everyone would laugh like, I've never seen, and I don't remember what type of phone it was, but it was like, golly. I mean, this thing had to be maybe 4 inches, I want to say. It was super tiny. And everyone kept laughing. I said, what, is that a phone? I was like, yeah. I said, I've never seen a phone that small before. But the thing is, why did I have it? Because it could fit in my pocket and wouldn't be bulky. Because the phones were really bulky, and I hated them in my pockets. It was hard to sit down in jeans and stuff, and you had to pull it out, and I didn't want to. But with that little tiny phone, I could just plug it in. I remember it had the tiniest little charger, too. It had a weird charger, unlike anything I'd ever seen. Like, if I lost that charger, I wasn't going to find anything else to replace it. But I had that tiny phone till at least 2008, 2009, till the end of that decade. And it was a good phone. And I remember that was one of the, I said this is one of my this game was called Bubble Pop. This is basically where you shoot these little bubbles, and if they match up, they all break apart. And no game, I mean, there's been games that have kind of copied that, but no game has just been fun as that simple Bubble Pop game that I had years ago on that tiny little phone. So I also love that Bubble Pop game. I'd play that Bubble Pop game, make calls, send text on it. It was this little small phone. You think my big fat fingers, like now I can't type for nothing to do a text. My texts always come out misspelled and whatnot. But back then, man, I was king of the quirky things. This is back when you had to push 2-3 times to just get the letter C up there. But I was really good at it. And when everyone else started getting smartphones, I kept my Razor, my Motorola Razor, until all the buttons had fallen off, and I just known where to push them. And then my wife finally twisted my arm in like 2010 or 2011, because I used to brag to people who had smartphones and say, look at my phone. It's not smart at all. It's still dumb. I was proud of that. But then I got the first smartphone, and I had talk to text, and I acted like I didn't know what I was doing, trying to send a text message to my wife, and she went, turn off talk to text. Like she thought I was that dumb. But anyway, all right, folks. Hey, tell me things you hated and loved in the 2000s. And I'll see you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.